Sunday, July 24th, 2022. This is All About Your Benjamins and your weekly mixtape and weekend review video. Hope you had a great week. If you were following along on social media, maybe hopping over to the Pursuit platform as well, you saw that we were up in New Buffalo, Michigan for our annual vacation, our fourth year up there. Great week, beautiful weather. Lake Michigan wasn't too cold. It was very pleasant to be in. It was just overall a great week. Want to encourage you to find little getaways like that rather than the big Disney trips always. Find little getaways where it's just family, a little bit of activity, slower pace, and great conversations, a great time. Want to encourage you to do that. Getting back into normal swing of life, going into the final week of summer for the boys. Here in Indiana, the kids are going back to school August 3rd, so really early this year. So we have one more week of true summer here. Going to try to maximize it. But that's not what today's episode is about, so let's get to the headlines that may or may not be impacting your financial plan and portfolio. And if you are watching this on the blog or heading to the blog soon, you're going to see there's a number of headlines down there. Don't think I would spend a lot of time on all of them, but definitely a lot of things I want to hit on. And obviously inflation and the Fed will dominate most of the conversations right now. The market's kind of settling itself a little bit. Still have some volatility, but not as scary as it was a couple weeks ago, which is not a bad thing. So first and foremost, the first article talks about how the Fed is painting the picture that they're going to raise interest rates another 0.75% later this month, but they have not taken one full percentage point off the table. As you go into the article, if you go into the article, you'll see that a lot of the Fed officials have kind of thrown some cold water on that, as they say in the article, and that they don't really want to be doing that. They're leaving it on there as an option, which I think is smart. So much of what the Fed needs to do is control the narrative. So setting expectations of 0.75, but giving them the flexibility to go one full percentage point in case there's something that pops up in the next few weeks that requires them to do so it's less of a surprise. I still think that if they were to go a full percentage point, there's going to be a bigger reaction. I don't know if it's going to be a good reaction or a bad reaction, but there'd be a bigger reaction than if they had not, or there'd be a bigger reaction even though they're going to say it. So nonetheless, the painted picture for 0.75. We'll see if they do that. My guess is that's probably what's going to happen. The next article talks about inflation showing signs of peaking. One of the big one is oil has come down a lot since last month. I think it's down 10% or more, depending on where you're at, as far as the gas prices and everything. So peaking does not mean we're through the period. Peaking just means we're hopefully done seeing it continue to go up every month. But we could peak and we could stay at this peak for a while, or as the experts, air quotes, as the experts say, they think it might come down some, but still could hang out high. I think one of the projections was still to be 7% inflation into the fourth quarter. So obviously inflation can't go away overnight. It would be nice to see it stop increasing, but there are signs out there showing that it may have hit a peak for right now. Now, we know that there are events that can happen that we don't even know are even a possibility that could keep it going up or throw some water on this peak. There could be activity picking up in Ukraine and Russia. There could be another big shutdown of things in China, slowing down deliveries, which would put up inflation as well. So we're not out of the woods yet, because while maybe things that we know today that are already happening are slowing down with inflation, there's always that wild card, that black swan event that could happen. One of which, I don't think this will be the case, but one of which could be this heat wave that's hitting the middle part of the country and stressing farmers right now. So there's an article that talks about how the heat wave is stressing crops, and ranchers having to sell off some of their cattle because it's too expensive to feed them. So in these times, they tend to get rid of the weaker ones, reserve their proceeds, and reserve their food for the stronger ones, and try to make it through this tough period. Now, I am not a meteorologist, so I don't know if this heat wave is any worse than usual. It's summertime, we have heat waves, but it's one of these times where this heat wave hits at a time that we see inflation peaking, which may not be the best thing because it could drive food costs up, which could impact inflation. So you see how, while we have some good trends and some good direction, there's always little things that can happen that can throw it off a little bit. I don't think this is going to be the case, but we never know. Moving on to a very dramatic headline from CNBC. Shout out to CNBC for trying to bring the drama to the weekly mixtape. Mortgage demands drops to a 22-year low as higher interest rates and inflation crush home buyers. Yes, inflation is hitting people, it's slowing down their spending, but crushing is a very, very strong word, and I don't think it's crushing home buyers. What I think is happening is, a lot of people bought homes over the last couple of years while interest rates were really low. When interest rates start to go up, people start to reevaluate whether or not they necessarily need to make a move. So having home buying slow down is not necessarily a bad thing. Having people be responsible and not just jumping into a bigger home now the interest rates have gone up, taking on a bigger mortgage payment, running into these adjustable mortgages that are out there that we saw back in 2006, 7, and 8. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think when interest rates change and the environment changes, taking a pause and reevaluating a decision that you're thinking about making makes a lot of sense. So yes, when interest rates are really cheap and you can move up in home for a little more than what you're already paying or less than what you're paying in rent, it makes sense to do so. But now if rent is the same as the mortgage or the mortgage is now more than rent, does it make sense? Pump the brakes and make a decision and think more about it. It's not necessarily irresponsible. So I don't think that's bad. I also don't think that seeing demand for home sales slip and go down is going to cause the mortgage and the real estate market to crash. Could be wrong, but and we've talked about this before, what has caused a lot of the bidding up of prices, it was one, the cheap interest rates, the cheap money and low interest rates, and also not enough homes on the market. And we're not seeing home builders bring so many homes to market that would flood the market with supply, which would drop prices. Sure, there are some areas that maybe are overheated, and maybe we don't see prices as high as they were, but I don't know if we see prices in homes crash. Again, I could be wrong, but I just feel like slowing in mortgage applications, home buying slowing a little bit isn't necessarily bad if people are being responsible, and I don't know if it translates to a crash in home prices. So we'll have to wait and see, and this may age poorly, but with what I see today and what I know today and what I've experienced in the past, this home boom is different than the past, and it's very much driven by supply and demand with a low interest rate environment putting fuel on that fire. The fire was still already there. People wanting to move out, get out of the city, have bigger homes. They're able to do so. They're buying homes later in life. So anyways, I ramble on that. We'll move on. We are global investors. We believe in having a globally diversified portfolio, which means it makes sense to pay attention to what's going on overseas. And the European Central Bank, the ECB, raised rates by 0.5 percentage point for the first time since 2011. The crazy thing is this raise in interest rates brought their interest rates back to zero. If you remember, they were in a negative interest rate environment for, I think it was 8 years. So this was told, the leaders over there said this was what's going to happen. They raised the rates. They were painting the story this is going to be going on, but they are going to be raising rates just like we are to keep up with and to try to combat inflation, which is actually worse over there than it is here. They also have to combat that their dollar is stronger, which is making their imports more expensive, driving inflation up as well. So if you're ever wanting to go over to Europe right now is a good time to go because of the strength of the dollar over there, making things a little bit more affordable than they have been in the past. Now, don't go out and take a European vacation if you can't afford it, but if you're ever thinking about it, now might be the time to look at it given where the dollar stands. Heading into crypto, it's been a while since we've had a talk on crypto. Still believe in the space, don't think it goes away, but what we're learning is there's a lot of junk. There was a lot of junk, and there's still a lot of junk in the market, what we've talked about before. Understanding what it is you're investing in, where are you putting your money, and unfortunately, as I was reading this story in the Wall Street Journal, my heart breaks with what the amounts of money that people lost and how they funded it. One individual took a home equity loan, put money into Celsius, and basically lost it. Celsius went bankrupt. Was able to pay it off. He had the cash to pay it off, so he was leveraging the equity in his house, which isn't necessarily, I wouldn't recommend it, but I understand the theory behind it, to go earn high interest rates. But not understanding what are these crypto companies doing with the proceeds, how are they lending it out, what's the stable coin? We've talked about the stable coins collapsing, the ones that are based on algorithms and not truly pegged to dollars like money markets are. How does all this work? How are they getting this yield? And it's just reminding us that if it's too good to be true, chances are it might be too good to be true, and you got to understand the risks that you're taking. So a reminder of when crypto comes back, because it will become popular again. It will settle. A lot of the junk will be removed. the ones that survive, that were doing things properly, will do well. They'll come back up, and crypto will become popular again. And when it does, it will bring in more of these companies that are not doing things the right way, that will have enticing deals. And remind yourselves, when those happens again, what happened back in 2022, don't put yourself in that position. Understand what it is that you're investing. Understand how it's earning what it's earning. Understanding what the risks are to keeping it where you might be keeping it versus taking control of it yourself. Understand the risks of your taking control of it yourself. Understand the space. And also understand that even though I believe in the space and I invest in the space, I don't think you have to have crypto to reach your goals in the long term. So if you don't feel comfortable with it, I'm not going to be the guy who says you're going to be poor for the rest of your life because you don't have crypto. Keep investing in traditional investments. Save, dollar cost average, be diversified, control your spending, try to increase your income over time, and I think you'll probably be on a good path with or without crypto. And final, the drama in the market with Twitter and Elon Musk. The trial is set for October in the lawsuit over Elon Musk walking away from the $44 billion offer for Twitter. So there'll be some drama there. You'll probably see some impact to stock prices with that as well if you're an investor in Twitter or investor in Tesla. Be interesting to see how this all plays out. And overall, just really messy. From from a fan of Elon Musk and what he's been able to do, you hate to see him doing things like this, taking away from the brilliant mind that he is. But nonetheless, here we are. So we'll see how this all plays out. All right, that's it. I went longer than I expected, but there was a lot of things to hit on and some things that popped up as I was talking, as often happens. I want to thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you and your support. If you have never subscribed to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Trying to drive these numbers up, help more people find All About Your Benjamins, the weekly mixtape. The next episode, there's a new episode with my dad and I as well out this week. And so have a great day. Have a great week. If you are in Indiana, enjoy this last week of summer if your kids are going back on the 3rd. And we'll see you all in the next episode.